Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. If you would like some of my merch, go visit ashleysaysso.net. The link is in the description. Also, if you would like to send me gifts from my Amazon wish list, that link is also in the description. I don't have no long intro for this. Let me just put it to you like this. Was Bob Hope who we all thought he was, or was he someone or something else? Child, let's go ahead and find out when we get to the scandal, child. The scandal, after this disclaimer.
Hey y'all, I'm not sure what's true or false in this video. It is all for entertainment purposes. I have done my research. Make sure you guys do yours. Stay positive and stay grounded. Let's get to the video.
Leslie Towns Hope, aka Bob Hope, was born on May the 29th, 1903 in Eltham, County of London. His mother's name was Avis and his father's name was William Henry Hope. And on top of Bob, the Hopes had 6 more children. And in 1908, they left the UK and moved to America, settling in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, from the early age of 12 years old, Bob knew that he wanted to go into show business. So he decided to join the poor kids that were dancing and performing in the street. Bob would do well in his performances, and of course, the adults would walk by and throw the change at him. But unlike the poor kids that he was performing beside, who would scoop the change up and go home to feed their families, Bob didn't need to do that. So he would just keep the change as his pocket change. But although the money thrown to Bob didn't matter much to him, what did matter was to know when talent shows came into town. So in 1915, he ended up performing in one of these talent shows, and he won the top prize because he impersonated Charlie Chaplin. Now, this prize was great fun, but it did not do anything to further his showbiz career. And Bob was becoming an older teenager, so he needed to start making real money. So Bob enrolled himself in a boys' industrial school so he could learn a trade. Then he took a break from that and he went into boxing. Then he left boxing to work in a factory. And finally, he settled to work alongside his father at his father's tree removing service. But either Bob wasn't no good at removing trees, or the boy didn't pay attention to the safety protocols, because gossip claims one day he was out there sawing a tree to cut it down and the tree fell on top of him, crushing his face. So Bob laying there talking about, somebody help me, and his daddy running around hollering. But luckily they were able to get him to the hospital in time, and the surgeons had to perform extensive plastic surgery to repair Bob's face. And luckily the surgeons did a great job, because when Bob healed, he wanted to go back into show business, which is what he did in the year 1925. This time, while Bob was performing in talent shows and different stage plays, luck was on his side, because he caught the eye of international star Fatty Arbuckle. And Fatty Arbuckle put Bob in contact with a dance troupe. And Fatty also started booking this dance troupe at several high-paid shows all around the country. So since Bob was now performing on several stages in several cities and thousands of people saw him, and also since he had this very prosperous connection with Fatty Arbuckle, Hollywood started to give him a nod. And so they invited him for a screen test. But unfortunately, the Hollywood execs did not see in Bob Hope what Fatty Arbuckle saw in Bob Hope. And so they sent Bob Hope on his way. Bob was cool with this though. If he couldn't start his professional acting career in front of a screen, he would just do it on stage. And so he went to join Broadway. And it was him performing on Broadway that put him in contact with several radio execs. And so he started performing on radio shows. And when we think of radio today, we think of DJs or just music playing on the radio. Well, radio back then was not like that at all. See, remember back then, TV was not popular yet. So people used to sit around the radio and actually listen to shows that we would watch on TV today. You know, sitcoms and stuff like that. That would actually happen on the radio. Well, Bob and the characters he played was well received by the American public. And since everybody listened to radio, those same Hollywood execs that denied him at first now felt like Bob did have some acting chops. And so they invited him back to Hollywood. When he got there, they decided that they did need to work on the way he moved and acted in front of the camera, but they were sold on his acting ability. And so Bob Hope ended up becoming a huge star. He came across as a hardcore manly man, but he also was funny and slightly handsome with a dad bod. You know, he would tell a joke, but he would also tell a dame what's what, and she could either get with the program or get lost. You dig, kid? Well, like I said, Bob Hope was a huge success. You know, the industry loved him, the American public loved him, but if they knew the alleged behavior of Bob Hope behind closed doors, they probably would turn their heads in disgust. Because according to gossip, Bob Hope was truly something else. And baby, we're about to go ahead and get to that scandalous mess right now. Now we're gonna start with the basic small scandal, but by the end of this doggone video, baby, you're gonna be sitting up there with your hair blue bag. So the folks say Bob Hope's first marriage was to a woman by the name of Grace Louise Troxel. And this marriage happened in 1933. Well, by 1934, a new lady had entered Bob's life, and her name was Dolores. And Miss Dolores, who was a Ziegfeld Follies beauty, was a lot more fun than Miss Grace. See, Dolores allowed Bob to do whatever he wanted, because she wanted to join in on the fun as well, if you catch my drift. And so because Dolores was a lot more open, a lot more fun than Grace, like I just said, Bob Hope pulled a Harlem Night. And you guys know what I'm talking about. He basically picked up the phone and told Grace, hey, I'm never coming home again. Well, here's the deal. Immediately after Bob made that phone call to Grace, he started telling people that Dolores was his wife. But do tell, sir, how is Dolores your wife? First of all, allegedly, he never divorced Grace. Secondly, him and Dolores ain't took nobody's vow. Thirdly, ain't no wedding photos, ain't no marriage license, no marriage contract, baby, no nothing. And so what I'm trying to get to is that even though Dolores was with Bob Hope for the rest of his life and shared 4 children with Bob Hope, a rumor has it they were never legally married. Then get this, some people say that the reason Bob never married Dolores was because he never divorced Grace. And gossip claims in order to keep Grace's mouth shut about the whole not divorced affair, he paid her hush money every single month up until the day that he died. And Grace kept her mouth shut and kept taking the money. Now that's the rumors dealing with Bob Hope and his first wife, Grace. Let's go ahead and get into some of this gossip regarding his new honey, Dolores. So Dolores was said to be that thing, honey. And allegedly she was a cheating man's dream. Because, child, don't you know the folks say that Dolores would allow Bob Hope to knock a woman down in the bed right beside her. Now they say it's very possible that later on in life, as they got older, Dolores stopped the threesome activities, you know, and she wanted Bob to stop sleeping with other women and just be faithful to her. Baby, the folks say that Bob gave her 3 options. Said she could either bring her raggedy head back into the bed and participate with him, she could take her raggedy head and leave the relationship and leave this whole big money lifestyle behind, or she could turn her raggedy head to the side and shut her eyes and shut her mouth. And gossip claims that Dolores chose the 3rd option, honey. Said that she just, you know, turned her head and didn't say anything, just let Bob carry on his affairs in peace. And believe me, she had a lot to turn her head about, because Bob Hope was out here in these streets. One of the first women he messed with was actress Barbara Payton, and I talked about this in her video when I mentioned him along with several men that she messed with. But get this, gossip claims that Barbara Payton could have been set for life when it came to Bob Hope, because allegedly right when they started talking, he got her an apartment and also possibly bought her a car. But Barbara messed this all up because she wanted everything at one time. You know, even though he gave her this, she started asking for massive amounts of money very early on. And then allegedly, when she didn't get it, she threatened to tell the world about their affair. Well, when Bob heard this, gossip claims that he got very angry and really wanted to bust Barbara upside the head. But what he did was drew up a contract and made her sign it. And on this contract, he was going to pay her a very large amount, like one large lump sum, to just take the money and go. You know, to just leave him alone, never talk to him again, never mention him again. And so allegedly that is how he got Barbara Payton out of his life. But Barbara did not hold up her end of the bargain, because gossip claims around 10 years later, she ended up writing a book and spilling the details of her and Bob's affair. But by this time, Barbara was so messed up, drugged up, and had such a bad reputation, like nobody cared that she spilled the beans on Bob Hope. Another woman that Bob Hope was involved with was actress Marilyn Maxwell. well. Like, Bob didn't even care if people found out about her. Gossip claims that actually in Hollywood, whenever Marilyn would walk by, people would tip their heads and be like, "How you doing, Mrs. Hope?" You know, like she is his legal married wife or something. Another lady that Bob had an affair with was Welsh actress and Miss World 1961, Rosemary Franklin. And gossip claims this affair went on for 30 years. Baby, as a matter of fact, it is said that this affair ended a few years before the year 2000, and the year 2000 was the year that Rosemary took herself off of the planet. And keep that in mind, this whole deal about Rosemary taking herself out of the planet, because as we go deeper and deeper into these scandals, that's gonna get brought up again. Another woman that Bob was rumored to have slept with was Marilyn Monroe. And when you think of Marilyn Monroe, a lot of people are like, you know, well, she was very sensual, you know, and she seemed to be sort of about that life anyway. Well, let me tell you how prolific Bob was at getting his women. Rumor has it that he even got the goody two-shoes church quiet girl to slip down her panties to her ankle. Y'all know the one I'm talking about, the one that's sitting up there with shirts always buttoned up to the neck, the one with the homely bob hairstyle with the flip under for good measure. Baby, y'all know I'm talking about Doris Day. Baby, them folks say that Bob Hope had Doris Day acting like an animal in their bedroom. Just say they used to go on tours together, honey, and on the tour would sleep together every single night. And get this right here, you know his wife Dolores usually wouldn't say nothing, you know what I'm saying? She was always turning her head. Well, there was something about Bob Hope messing with Doris Day that just didn't sit well with Dolores. So baby, the folks say that one day Bob and Doris had flown back to California from this certain tour that they were on, and when they walked off the plane, Dolores come running up, arms wide, boobies bouncing, just, "Bob, oh Bob, I love you. Me and the children missed you, Bob. We missed you." She gripped Bob Hope in a tight embrace like this, and baby said the whole time she was hugging him, she was looking at Doris Day like this. You know, like, B, this my man, you better move along. Child, the folks say Doris Day tilted her head down like this and kind of nodded and ran on the way. Said she never messed with Bob Hope again. And what, child? This seemed like some mess, but baby, this ain't nothing at all. Because as we go deeper, I'm telling you. But anyways, let's move on. Now, on top of the women I just named, who were basically big named women, Bob Hope slept with hundreds, maybe even thousands, who knows, of regular unnamed women. Gossip claims that these regular groupies or young women used to sit outside of his hotel room, and Bob Hope, who had just left the studio or maybe just left the stage, would come back to the hotel and he would ignore them. You know, they were just sitting there, and he would walk into his room, probably take a nap, relax, or take a shower, basically get himself well rested, and then he would come back out into the hallway and then like go walking down the line looking at all of the women, and then the ones he chose to have in the bed, he would kind of get them by the hand and tell them, you know, go wait for me in the room, go wait for me in the room. Basically had them lined up like they were food on a buffet. So y'all hear all this stuff Bob Hope was allegedly doing, right? And we're not here to say what's true or false. We're just saying you hear all the stuff that allegedly Bob Hope was doing. Well, yet and still, if you ask somebody that's maybe 60 or older today about Bob Hope, they would say something like, you know, oh, Bob Hope, you know, he was a terrific guy. The way that he just entertained and donated to our troops. He and his wife were very right-wing conservative people, you know, and they love the Lord. And they feel this way because Bob Hope was deified back then. And when I say deified, baby, I mean it. There were even stories circulating back then about how Bob Hope healed the sick. Baby, I kid you not, the story says that Bob Hope visited some sort of veterans hospital, and so there were a bunch of wounded veterans that he was going to see. Well, he's walking by shaking hands with people who have horrific injuries, and then he walks and stands beside this guy that's laying in the bed, and this guy is in a coma. So Bob just kind of stands there, and he's kind of just staring down and looking at this man that allegedly was in a months-long coma. And while Bob is just sitting there staring, the man opens up his eyes and he says, "Hey, Bob Hope, When did you get here? Everybody in the hospital is like, oh my gosh, did that guy in a coma just talk? And while everybody is like talking, clapping, and trying to figure things out, Bob Hope is just so overwhelmed with compassion and emotion at what just happened. He just runs out of the room with tears streaming from his eyes. He just cannot believe that the blessings of God flow through him so much that just his mere presence healed this guy in a coma. Now, if that story seems a little bit over the top, that is because it probably was. Rumor has it that is one of many false stories that was planted in the media about Bob Hope. And they had to plant these false stories because if you would have asked the people that knew him and saw him about the real stories regarding Bob Hope, they wouldn't have been anything like what this story was. In fact, gossip claims that the media hushed up some of the real stories about Bob Hope from the people who knew him and worked with him. Take his writers, for instance. His writers who worked for him claimed that Bob Hope was the worst. They said that he was so rude and so nasty that first of all, he would make them write 20 jokes a day, 5 days a week. And gossip claims that if any of those 20 jokes failed to elicit laughter or they didn't seem good to him, baby, he would fire the writer on the spot. Wouldn't even give the person a second chance. And some people are going to discount this and they're going to say, well, that just shows that Bob Hope was tough. He had to be in order to make it in the town that he was in. And okay, we'll give you that. Maybe you're right. But what about the deeper and more sinister rumors regarding Godly Bob? Like the rumor that Bob Hope was a part of the Michael Kors Ultra program. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Let me not say Michael Kors Ultra because I don't want to start no mess with that. So let's just say the Mickey Kors Ultra program. And I hope y'all are able to read through the lines and get what I'm saying when I say the Mickey Kors Ultra program. If not, you might want to type in some of the rumors that I'm about to tell you about and maybe do some research and study and see what's going on. But for the ones of you who get it, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that program. Well, allegedly, once Bob Hope gained his worldwide fame and the public loved him, he was offered a chance to be a part of the Mickey Kors Ultra program. And they claimed the position that he was offered was the chance to be a handler. And one of the young girls he handled was a young lady who goes by the name of Bryce Taylor. Per Bryce Taylor, Bob used to assault her as well as other young girls and then do the most torturous things to these children to sort of induce a dissociative personality disorder or multiple personality disorder. And then once they got that split personality, they would program that split personality with things that they wanted that split personality to know or to be. It's really something similar to the Manchurian Candidate. I don't know if everybody has seen that movie before. The ones who have, it's something very similar to that. And when I say some of the things that they put these children through is heinous, baby, I mean it is heinous. But even if I wanted to spill it on this platform, like I can't. I'm not allowed. And baby, believe me, I want to say a lot because let me drop a little hint on you. Allegedly, Michael Jackson was a part of this program. And gossip claims that his daddy Joe Jackson was the one to allow it because he was a handler himself. What, child? In 2009, Roseanne Barr put a post on her blog and she said that Joe Jackson was a part of the Mickey Kors program and that he raised Michael up in this mess.
Sorry, y'all, I gotta bust in with the voiceover right here because of camera issues. But anyway, when I did the Joe Jackson video, I had no idea about Joe possibly being involved with the Mickey Kors Ultra program. But now that I know that, you remember that book I was talking about in the Joe Jackson video? That book, Inside the Shy Lights, where that author, Darren Cuby, had said he seen Joe Jackson do all of this sacrificial type stuff? Well, honey, listen. Now that stuff is starting to make a lot more sense. Now, I'm not saying it's true, you know what I'm saying? But now I can at least see where that story possibly came from. That's all I'm trying to say. Even if the author made it up, not saying he did, maybe, I don't know. But if he even made it up, I see where it came from. It came from rumors like this. Rumors that Joe was a part of the Michael Kors whatever program.
And you know what's even more funny? When I was researching for the Joe Jackson video, I came across this right here. Now, this was from a gossip blog, and this person was saying that they heard a rumor that Michael Jackson possibly was molested by Bob Hope or somebody in Bob Hope's circle. Well, see, now everything just comes back around. Now everything is starting to make sense. But check me out. Roseanne said that not only was Michael one of their victims, she said she herself was one of the victims out of this program. And if she was telling the truth and she possibly was a victim, that means a lot of them that are there right now in Hollywood on the TV screens and on the movie screens are also possibly victims. Let that sink in. You know, we've always wondered why people take certain deals. You know, why does this? You know, what if they have several personalities? What if all of these people were kind of born into this system? What if it didn't even start with these celebrities themselves? What if the actual Mickey Kors Ultra program goes back way further than the 1960s? What if it actually started with their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents? What if they were all born into?
So what if they were? Could you believe that it's possible for multiple generations of a family to be born under mind control? Baby, when you dig deep, for some reason you run into a lot of people who think it's absolutely possible. But child, I don't want no smoke from none of the higher ups. So let me end this little conspiracy by saying this.
It's all just a conspiracy. This ain't true. It's not true. It can't be true. Let's move on. So anyway, like I said, all of that was a big conspiracy. But what's funny is even without the conspiracy theory, real comments from real people who dealt with Bob Hope right here online on online forums still say that Bob Hope was a terrible person. There's a person saying that he came to visit the troops in Vietnam, and the person like stood outside all day asking for an autograph, said Bob Hope walked right past him and was very rude. Another person said they also were in Vietnam when Bob Hope came to perform for them, and they said that this Vietnamese young comic comes up to him and she's like, "Here you go, Mr. Hope, this is a joke I wrote." Baby said Bob Hope told her, "And why would I want this? Seriously, why would I want this?" You even got people who claim that they are kin to Bob Hope on the forum, talking about how nasty and mean Bob Hope is. Like this comment that claims that their grandmother was like a first cousin to Bob Hope or whatnot. So allegedly this person claims that in the 1950s or 60s, their grandmother had wrote a letter to Bob Hope. And so she was just trying to tell him, you know, "Hey, I'm your first cousin. I'm proud of you, blah, blah, blah." Baby said that Bob Hope sent a letter back and was like, "You know, what you writing for? You know, like, I ain't finna give you no money. Ooh, it's always family members sitting up there trying to come out the woodwork, trying to get money from me. I ain't got nothing for you." It's a whole heap of comments. I put the link in the top comment. You guys could go check it out for yourself. And those are regular people who knew Bob Hope in real life. You had some celebrity people who knew Bob Hope behind the scenes. They didn't like him either. Allegedly, Bing Crosby couldn't stand Bob Hope. You know, he was friends with him at one point, but allegedly the more he hung around Bob Hope, he did not like him. Johnny Carson was another one who didn't like Bob Hope. He couldn't stand for Bob Hope to come to his show. And if you're wondering why none of these stories really came out on Bob Hope while he was alive, well, allegedly it was because Bob Hope would give great incentive to people in the media to help cover up the negative stuff. Like his PR lady, Ursula Halloran. Baby, she got more than enough incentive because Bob was taking her down too. But check me out. Gossip claims she spent most of her life covering up things for Bob, hiding things for him, and then jumping in the bed whenever he demanded it just for him to toss her to the side when he got tired of her. And allegedly, after they stopped messing around, Ursula Halloran was another one who took herself off of the planet. Now, I'm not saying or even hinting that Bob Hope had anything to do with these women leaving the planet, but let's be clear here. At least 3 people, maybe even 4 if you're counting Marilyn Monroe, people that Bob Hope had affairs with took themselves off of the planet. The first one was Barbara Payton, the second one was Ursula Halloran, and the third one was Rosemary Franklin. So whether they are connected to Bob Hope or not is still pretty eerie. But anyways, let's move on. So to wrap things up, we've talked about the underbelly thing, you know, the conspiracy conspiracy, ooga booga type stuff. But I want to make it clear that when it came to Bob Hope's career, this man was respected worldwide, no exception. And oh my goodness, I forgot to mention, it's not just the masses and the industry who loved Bob Hope. Baby, those people in Washington, D.C., oh, he was well connected. I mean, Bob Hope was homeboys with people down from the governor all the way up to the president. And I'm talking about real homeboys. I ain't talking about Bob Hope just showing up at stuffy events with suit and tie and all this kind of stuff. No, Bob Hope was so close to these people, even the presidents, like I said, that he would like go have a drink with these people and go golfing with these people. So like I said, he was very respected, very well connected, very loved. And maybe there were two different sides of Bob Hope, but I tell you one thing, however many sides Bob Hope had and whatever he was doing in his private and his public life afforded his behind a long life to live. Gossip claims Bob Hope actually lived to be 100 years old, where he died on July the 27th, 2003 of pneumonia. And a lot of people are always like super amazed that Bob lived to be 100. Well, baby, get a load of this. His wife Dolores lived to be 102 years old. But anyways, this is the end of the old Hollywood scandalous story of Mr. Bob Hope. I love you guys so much. Be very, very, very safe out here. Also, please stay grounded. And I almost forgot, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.